Did you have any knowledge of complaints made to Mr. Watson about the ballot box having been left unlocked?
No.
Do you have any knowledge about complaints made to Mr. Watson about not having a private place for absentee voters to vote?
I'm not aware of any specific complaints.
Are you aware of any general complaints?
No, I'm not aware of any general complaints.
Mr. Henderson did not keep an absentee ballot registry as prescribed by law, did he?
You'd have to ask Mr. Henderson that question. It's my understanding Mr. Henderson took his responsibility very seriously and did what was required, but you'd have to ask him that question.
So you didn't know that, if it's true.
I'm comfortable that Mr. Henderson did what was required.
Mr. Henderson stonewalled certain of the public records requests about the election during the election and afterwards, didn't he?
I would disagree with that statement.
Do you know the details of the various public records requests that were made during that period of time?
No, I don't get involved in the details of all public records requests.
Now, did you attend the spring festival that was conducted in Alachua, City of Alachua, I think on April 9th, 2006, and maybe other days as well?
I attend many of the functions on Main Street. I attended one in that general time frame.
Okay. And in fact, you visited James Lewis's campaign booth, did you not?
I visited many of the booths on Main Street.
And you handed out James Lewis's campaign literature, did you?
I don't recall handing out any campaign material. I was around on Main Street off and on.
You were supporting Mr. Lewis in your efforts there, were you not?
I was there as a citizen. I was there with my grandson, and I was there to enjoy the day.
If anybody asked you who to vote for, you told them James Lewis, didn't you?
I don't recall that conversation, but if that did happen, I don't remember the specific thing.
If someone had asked you, you would have said James Lewis, isn't that correct?
I don't know whether I would have said that or not. I don't remember.
You, in fact, were inside James Lewis's campaign booth. A portion of the time you were there, were you not?
I had gone, there was a cooler of cold drinks in there. I had my grandson with me. I'd gone in there to get some bottled water and came in and out a couple of times.
Okay. Did you pay for the bottled water?
No, I did not.
While you were there, Mr. Lewis was there some of the time?
Yes.
And while you were there, Mr. Watson was there some of the time?
I can't speak that he was there the whole time because I was in and out and up and down the street.
You recall having been there when Mr. Watson was there?
I recall seeing Mr. Watson on Main Street and around that vicinity.
In the booth?
I can't say I ever saw him in the booth, but in that general area.
You don't recall the time when all three of you, Mr. Watson, Mr. Lewis, and yourself, were in his booth or around his booth talking?
We could have been on the street here talking here.
And during this time, there were members of the public around, enjoying the festival.
Oh, yes.
And so some of them would have seen you and the others.
Yes.
Now, during the campaign of Mr. Lewis, you in fact would ride with him on occasion in connection with his campaign matters.
No.
You did not? Never?
I did not.
No. Okay.
I have never been on Mr. Lewis's vehicle.
Okay. How about with him in somebody else's vehicle? Now, did your husband publish some negative articles and comments about Louis Irby's campaign during the election?
I don't recall ever seeing anything. You'd have to ask my husband if that's the point.
You regularly read Alachua County Today and the High Springs Herald?
Generally, I routinely read it.
And if your husband published something in those articles, in those journals, and you saw his name attached to them, would you read it?
I may or may not.
You might just ignore it. Did you read any negative articles? Do you know somebody by the name of Kenyon? Kenyon?
I know Mr. and Mrs. Kenyon.
And how well do you know them?
I know them as community citizens, as citizens that attend our meetings and different functions.
Are you aware that Mr. and Mrs. Kenyon published negative articles about Mr. Irby's campaign?
Not that I recall.
Did you recommend that the local papers, including the ones I mentioned, endorse the candidacy of James Lewis?
Yeah.
Mr. Watson was actively supporting the candidacy of James Lewis, wasn't he?
You'd have to answer Mr. Watson that question. I don't think
You don't have an opinion on that? Now, I think you've testified you served as a member of the canvassing board on the evening of April 11, 2006.
Correct.
And you were the chairman of the canvassing board? And you appointed Roseanne Morris to the board?
Correct.
Did you receive any training about the duties and functions of the canvassing board?
We had a training at which Pam Carpenter was present a few days prior to the election actually taking place.
And what was done in that training?
The machines were demonstrated. The machines were sealed in preparation for the election, and there was general discussion about what would take place the day of the election.
And these machines and the sealing of them were not functions that the canvassing board itself accomplished, were they?
They were sealed, and then there were statements that were printed out by Ms. Carpenter that we were asked to sign as a part of the procedure, saying that they were starting from zero.
From zero. Okay. So, in terms of the functions that took place here on April the 11th, in the meeting of the canvassing board that you chaired, did Pam Carpenter give you any specific instructions about your duties and functions and how to perform them and the laws that apply to them?
I don't recall Ms. Carpenter giving us any specifics as far as that particular meeting.
Did Mr. Henderson give you any specific instructions about that?
At that training?
Yes.
I don't recall all the specifics. There were general questions and answers. I don't recall any specifics regarding that.
Was there any specific instruction given to the canvassing board as a board as to how to canvass absentee ballots?
At the meeting itself that we called to order at 8 o'clock, there were written instructions that said this is the procedure that we'll follow, and we read those in terms of how we were going to perform the thing, and there were written instructions that said this is how we'll proceed with the opening of the ballot, and that was how the meeting was conducted.
And who provided those written instructions?
The staff, and I believe Mr. Henderson provided those.
Do you have a copy of that document?
I don't with me here. I'm sure there's one that's available as a part of public records from the meeting that evening. I do have a copy that I kept with my agenda for that night.
All right, I'd like to have that document produced. We made a production demand. We did not receive that document.
That was.
Should we try to get that document?
Okay.
Were you aware at the time that the law prohibits anyone from serving on a canvassing board that actively, well, let me back up and say it this way.